So bodily ease. Earlier this evening, a group of us were exploring the term groundedness. It's a good term. It's often used in the English language in terms of well-being. If we feel grounded, it's typically a positive framing of our experience or way of being, to be grounded, to feel grounded. And conversely, if we feel ungrounded, it's a way of often referring to maybe feeling scattered or out of balance in some way. Two phrases that stand out in terms of what we often see either in our scriptures or more extemporaneous teachings by living teachers is to develop awareness grounded in the body. So already we've begun to do this, paying attention to our posture. So let's just take a couple of minutes to check in with the body, to see if our posture is balanced, or are we holding our body in a way that's creating unnecessary tension. And so maybe slowly sweeping our attention from crown of the head down to the fingers and toes, all the way through the body. And relax everything that isn't necessary to sustain us in the seated posture. In this way, we're letting go of what's unnecessary, bodily wise, letting go of the unnecessary, releasing. And this is how it also works with the heart and the mind. That same dynamic. What's unnecessary. But in both cases, bodily and, all three cases, bodily, mentally, and emotionally. In all cases, recognizing the transient nature, the temporary, impermanent nature of experience. So just because we let go of something now, doesn't mean we don't need to pick it up again or hold tightly to it later. But if we do all of it with knowledge, so taking in bodily, for instance, last week I was having trouble with my back, so I was having to put more effort into that part of my body. That was appropriate for 4 days ago. Time and place. Today I don't need to do that. Mindfulness grounded in the body, sensitive, responsive, adaptable. And let's place our attention on the breathing process of the body. Using our focus on part of the body where we notice the breath entering and exiting the body the easiest, and what area is easiest for us to use. Abdomen, chest, nostrils, whatever. This is also mindfulness grounded in the body. Just that simple recognition of the breath coming and going, rising, ceasing, in-breath, out-breath. Let's use that as our object of meditation for these next several minutes. And if we become aware of thoughts or emotions arising, and that's not problematic in any way, but just gently allow them to cease and then return to the mindfulness of breathing. this way, developing our ability to observe. And to place ourselves in the position of being the observer. Not trying to control the breath. Body will just adjust its breathing needs accordingly. And we just keep observing. Perhaps we find it helpful to mentally note, whether the breath is short or long, shallow or deep. When other things come into our field of awareness, for instance, thoughts, or whatever, sounds, bodily sensations, whatever perceptions arise from the other senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, intellect, that same position of being the observer. Same thing applies. Observing the breath, observing the arising and disbanding of a thought or a feeling. It's all just stuff coming and going. Some of it we like, some of it we don't like, some of it we're completely indifferent. But that's not really the point. We're developing the heart and mind that can be observed through our mindfulness, through our awareness. But we're using the breath as our primary anchor to the present moment. Gives us a place to rest, a place to return to when we get distracted. So, next few minutes in silence, giving ourselves space to be the observer. this word observer, it's used quite a lot in the world. Like you have participants, you might have maybe meetings, some sort of complicated thing, and then you might have people there as observer status, and they're not able to get involved, but they're allowed to observe for whatever reason, so they don't get embroiled. And there's a lovely Dhamma phrase in English called unentangled knowing. Unentangled knowing. We know, we're observing, we know what's going on. And breath is like this. We know. Whether the breath is comfortable or uncomfortable, short, long, shallow, deep, restricted, free-flowing, with a knower. Body feels comfortable, we're aware, we know. Back is giving a lot of pain. Similarly, we know. Distracting thoughts arise, we know. Altruistic thoughts arise, we know. Uncomfortable emotions arise, comfortable emotions. So there's this knowing, awareness, consciousness, whatever we want to call it. And then there's the things that come and go within that. And two separate things. So earlier I mentioned mindfulness grounded in the body. It's also just being grounded in awareness. Knowing that reality of knowing and being aware of that. observers aren't trying to get anything. They're just observing. Not trying to get peaceful, but observing if peace is present. Quite common tendency or habit that we can fall into as meditators is trying to create or get particular results from our meditation. Or particular states, experiences. Something that we think is the desired result. So it's a very results-based approach, which is very common, very understandable, because that's the way we're taught from when we're born. We get results. Yeah, so it makes sense. But that can be, for many of us, that can be a real stumbling block or obstacle. because oftentimes we don't even really understand what we're looking for. And the Buddha's teachings they can look incredibly vast. In fact, when you look at the scriptures and how many books there are and how many teachings, not to mention all the practitioners and teachers that have come along since then, it can seem just overwhelming, potentially. But one of the most simple and probably one of the most helpful expressions of the Buddha that I've found is when he said, "I teach two things, dukkha and the cessation of dukkha." So dukkha translated here maybe a few words: stress, unsatisfactoriness, pain, suffering. And then the cessation of that. So by taking the opportunity like we're doing right now, this evening, one thing that we're doing is developing the sensitivity to know if there is dukkha. Is there a feeling of lack, unsatisfactory, sense of wanting, because that's the cause of dukkha is craving, desire, self-centered desire. And often, just by recognizing that there is dukkha, and if we can also see what it is that we're hanging on to, or grasping, wanting, sometimes that's, well, not just sometimes, but a lot of the time, it's just that very seeing is enough to it loosens up. Sometimes just the seeing is enough for it to be able to loosen our grasp, to no longer cling to whatever it is. Doesn't mean it disappears, but we're just no longer grasping at it. No longer clinging, holding. observing the breath, observing thoughts, feelings, and dukkha arising, dukkha disbanding. It's all temporary. It's moving, impermanent. Grounded in awareness.